Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
Super excited to talk about this today. So we all have limitations. We all have constraints. We all have, those roadblocks that we run into when we're trying to achieve our goals. And today we're talking about knocking those down. We're talking about unlocking our potential, and really talking about the tactics and strategies to identify our weaknesses and our limitations and overcome them.
So think of it with this analogy. So you're driving a car and you put your foot on the accelerator and think of that as motivation, listen to these podcasts, working out, all of those things are going to accelerate you in success. But oftentimes what people don't realize is they also have their other foot on the brake. And that's your limitations, and so you can still be making progress and still be doing the right things, but the progress is slowed or stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's oftentimes because there's a weakness, there's a skill that you're missing, or there's an attitude that you're missing that you haven't adopted. And sometimes, or oftentimes, we lie to ourselves and say it's not that bad. We certainly can do that with our fitness and our weight. That's something very common that we all do. But also we can do that with other things. Maybe we're not good at communicating with people or certain people. And that can definitely make a huge difference in your career, especially because most of us, communication is one of the big things. So, so this podcast is about it. How do you identify it? Because we're not usually good at seeing our mistakes, but we're really good at seeing other people's mistakes.
Well, and I think the danger we run into, and I love talking about this at this time of year, because we're heading into fourth quarter. People are starting to think about those, like their resolutions and their goals and things like
Right.
that for 2026. And, and if you're like a lot of people, and I had been in this category a while ago, you're one of those people who like sets that fitness goal,
Hmm.
right? And then you set that fitness goal again the next year. And then you set that fitness
Right.
goal again the next year.
Hmm.
And what's
Hmm.
interesting is like it's okay to have a fitness goal every year, if it's, hey, I want to, run, my 1 mile time in 8 minutes this year, next year it's 7 minutes, the next year it's 6 minutes. Like that's one way to go.
Right.
But what happens more regularly is we go the other way, and not only are we not getting closer to our goals year to year, but we're moving further away because that foot's on the brake.
Hmm.
And as we get older, it gets harder, right? So, and what we do is at the end of the year, we look and we go, well, what's the roadblock? And the danger is we go, I must just be the roadblock, right? Like
Right.
it must just be I'm not going to be a healthy person, or I'm not going to be a
Right.
financial success, or
Right.
I'm going to be alone forever. It's just me, right?
Yeah, they give up. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's just not, it's specific things that you're doing. It's that specific gas pedal you're stepping on, and I think identifying those is or brake pedal. I think identifying those is important. I think that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, and expanding a little bit on what you just said, like my belief is that if I or any person has something in their heart that they really want to achieve, they really want it, it's a desire and possibly even a burning desire, something they think about a lot, and they still haven't achieved it yet, that you should not be thinking, well, I guess I'm just going to, let's say it's financially independent. Okay. So not a billionaire, just financially independent. And I haven't achieved that yet. Okay. Then that doesn't mean that I'm not able to do it. What it means is I just need to develop the skills in order to do it, or the attitude, or both. And so my belief is if it's in your heart, then you have the capability of doing it. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of finding the right people to help you, learning the right skills, etc. And so adopting that belief that, okay, I can do this and not giving up, like you mentioned, that's the worst. I really like people in martial arts that quit. If somebody quits at white or yellow belt, I'm like, I don't like it. But hey, listen, martial arts isn't for everybody. I get that. No problem. But when they quit at red belt, high red belt, or they quit after they got recycled from a black belt, that's tough for me. That's really tough for me. So, hopefully this podcast will help identify and
Yeah.
get us where we need to be.
And I love the three steps. I almost feel like we put the for the people who are listening, I feel like we put these together in a specific order, even though I
Yeah.
don't think we did. It just like we just kind of
Yeah.
came with them this way.
Yep.
But the last one's the most important, but the first one's the hardest. And let's get into
Yes,
the
it
first
is.
one. So the first one is about seeking. Everyone listening is going to hate this, but hear us out.
Yep.
Seek specific, candid feedback.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Look for feedback, but and it's so funny because I just talked to my daughter about this the other day. So seek feedback from three people that you trust and that you care about and that you spend time with,
Right.
right? Feedback from the world doesn't really matter, right?
No.
We should
No.
try to eliminate that as much as we can.
Yep. For sure.
But we always talk about like those trusted people in our family that we
Hmm.
share our goals with, that we do that with. Find those three people, and really identify them.
Yeah. People that have your best interest in mind, and people like to me, um, I think if you're lying to somebody to make them feel better, unless it's your spouse, if you're lying to somebody that to make you that makes you feel better, that I don't think that's you're doing them a service, right? If I'm correcting one of my kids, now they're adults, so it doesn't usually happen very often, but when they were kids, that is to help them in the long run. It wasn't an ego thing for me. It was I want to make their life better, and I need to help them correct this mistake. So it's really about searching out, like you said, those people. The other part is make sure you're asking them like behavioral questions, like
Mhm.
how do I like how's my mood, how is my approach with people, whatever you think, or whatever they come up with what your weaknesses or perceived weaknesses are, or things you need to work on. Ask about the behavior patterns, because that's going to make a difference, because if you logically know and intellectually know that, hey, this is what I need to work on, but you it's not in you,
Yeah.
to do it, and you don't buy into it emotionally, you're not going to make the change.
Yeah, and I think making the questions hard to dodge, is
Yeah,
part of it. Like it's interesting because like once a year I'll ask my wife like, "Hey, how am I doing as a husband?" Right?
yeah,
And that answer is going to be very like, "Oh, you're doing great," right? Because
yeah,
what else is the answer going to be?
yeah,
But when you get into those like specific questions, like
right,
so, like my daughter's learning to drive, and I'll say, "Hey, how am I doing?" When I'm riding passenger seat, and kind of show like, am I too aggressive? Am I whatever? And she'll give me
yeah,
real feedback,
yeah,
and that helps me get better. But part of that, and an important part of that is listening without arguing, right?
that's
And
big. Yep,
listening without that need to be like, oh, and I'm going to be moody and take offense,
yep,
right? So like my spouse gave me feedback, and now I'm not going to talk to her the rest of the day.
yeah,
I'm not going to make her coffee in the morning, and then she's never going to give me honest feedback again,
yeah,
right?
you're
So
right.
I think that's an ability that you have to build, but you can do.
Well, think about the students that we have. We have a lot of great students, but
Hmm.
every once in a while we'll get a student that, our job is to correct them. Our job is to make them better
Yeah,
and to give them feedback and honest feedback. And once in a while we'll get a student that might even try to argue or say, I don't think that's it. And it's like, after a while, if you don't break that down, then it's like, okay,
right.
you're not going to do well, and you're not
Yeah,
going to progress after a certain amount of time. And usually most of the time those people change, but every once in a while they don't change, and then they just end up leaving.
yeah,
I think, real quick, if you go back to 2 or 3 podcasts ago on ego, I think, like, if you are struggling with this, and especially the last tip you gave, listen to that podcast, because I think that's probably maybe your issue.
yep, 100%. I think so.
Yeah,
So that's kind of step one in a nutshell is really look
yeah,
for that look for that feedback. But number two, is a little bit more of a self check, right?
yep,
And it's we always say if you can't measure it, you can't manage it,
right,
but it's about
yep,
looking at the data.
yeah,
So I mean, if you have fitness goals, what was your weight last year? What's your weight this year? Right? The things that are going to really show you whether you've progressed or
hmm,
whether you haven't. And I like this one because we spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about progress.
yep,
You know, and and we talk a lot. Maybe you did gain weight this year, but maybe you
yeah,
consistently drink more water, and that's
hmm,
progress, and that's something to be proud of.
yep.
But it's this is a little different because we're really trying to look at those hard numbers in our life for our finances, our health, our career, and all those things to see if we're progressing.
Yeah. And the other part is identifying reoccurring frustrations. So things that happen
Hmm.
throughout the month or throughout the year that you're in the same spot that you were last year. So what are those frustrating moments and what do you need to overcome it? So probably identifying them isn't going to take you long because the frustration comes up pretty quick. But what do I do about it?
Yeah.
I think that's part of this podcast. What we're talking about is how you overcome that. But truly identifying it, and then maybe there's some steps before that that leads. Maybe the frustration is the final step, and there's a few steps that you need to do before the little things you can do to make small adjustments.
Yeah. And what you said earlier, where you said if it's really in your heart to do something, you have the ability to do it, but sometimes you just lack that skill, right? There's a
Yep.
habit, there's a skill, there's something
Hmm.
that you don't know how to do. And another thing we've talked about a lot is, not, you look for somebody who knows how to do the specific thing,
Yeah.
right? You don't necessarily want everyone to be the person you model because somebody who may be great with finances may be bad with relationships and
Yeah.
so on and
Hmm.
so on.
For sure.
But if there's somebody that's a great investor and you're like, I want to get better at investing, try to learn something from that person, right?
Yeah.
We can always learn new skills, from people who have been through the thing we're
Right.
trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last step is prioritize and create an action plan. Now, this is something that we talk about all the time and with many of our podcasts, and there's a reason for it is because it works.
Yeah.
You have to take ownership. You have to get out of the mentality of it's somebody else's fault. Not being a victim is a loser way of thinking, and it's going to lead towards not only poor results, but I think it's going to lead to unhappiness. Okay. And the best way to get out of this is you taking action on it. So after you get all this feedback, so you got feedback from other people, you did your own assessment in your head, maybe you wrote some things down. Now I really want you to write some things down. Review your list of weaknesses. And if your list is like 10 or 11, let's pare it down to your top 2 to 3. Okay. Because honestly, you're going to be overwhelmed if you have that many. But everybody starts somewhere,
Yeah.
right? We were just talking about a student in class last night, before we got recording. And the student probably has some issues in school with bullying and things. But what happened in the classroom was amazing. How supportive and what support this student got in the classroom really helped boost the self-esteem and boost just his feeling. And that's key right there.
It,
Um, and that'll help him move to the next level.
I love this because it's such a womp womp moment. Like,
Yeah,
write down your list of weaknesses, and my list was, I wish it was only 10.
yeah,
But when you look at it, and I'm trusting everyone who's listening is an achiever, right? And we're here to do this. It's not a bad list. Like the most successful people I know who are trying to advance have those things that are holding them back. So when you look at that list, look at it as something to motivate you,
yeah,
right? Something to say, like, look, everybody has a list like this, and I'm going to pick one and I'm going to knock it out, right?
yep,
I'm going to focus. And it's funny. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it was an interview with Jeff Bezos, and he said he brought on an advisor. He has a lot of ideas. He has like
yeah,
hundreds of ideas a
yeah,
day.
yeah,
And one of his advisors said, Jeff, you have enough ideas to absolutely kill your company. You have too many things, and
yeah,
the only way you're going to bring your company to the next level is by focusing in. And I think that's really what we're talking about is saying,
right,
don't look at that list of weaknesses and go, man, I got a lot of work to do.
yeah,
Just pick one,
yep,
knock it off, and then focus on the specific action, to address that weakness for the next 30, 60 days, right? Like what can you accomplish in the next 30 to 60 days with that one weakness?
right. And then the other part of this is developing habits that are going to help you with this. So let's say one of your weaknesses your fitness. Okay, well, let's get a habit. In the next 60 days, I'm going to work out this many times a week. So start slow, do 3, and then the next week you do maybe 4. But even if you do 2, and you get in the habit of doing 2 versus what you were doing before was 0, that's a great habit. And you're going to realize that you probably want to increase that to 3 and 4 because you feel so good with
Yeah.
it. So once you identify and once you put it into action, it's about creating those successful habits that are going to lead you. The morning routines that we've talked about on podcasts, and we have a podcast on. All
Mhm.
those little habits make a huge difference that can lead to huge results.
Yeah. And and for the especially for the business owners out there, but really for everybody, one thing that we talk about when it comes to that action plan is finding things to delegate.
Yeah,
Because sometimes I know for me as a business owner, there's a lot of things that I have as weaknesses, and they're weaknesses because they're just not the highest and best use of time. Because
yep,
really, like we all have 24 hours a day,
right,
you know, and you got to make room for your health. And they're like, no, you can't
right,
delegate out jogging. I wish I could.
right.
Like, if I could delegate out jogging, my life would be amazing, but there are things I can delegate out.
Yeah,
And making sure that if one of your weaknesses is one of those things where you go, man, like one of my kids loves doing this thing, right?
right.
Like I'll let them do it and I'll follow it. And then it's just about following up. So
Yeah,
but let's review. So I think these are great steps
yeah.
on, really identifying, where our limitations are and overcoming those constraints. So number one, we're going to seek specific and candid feedback from people that we trust, those individuals we trust. We're going to ask pointy-ish questions,
hmm
and we're not going to take
Pointy-ish.
any pointy-ish, and we're not going to take offense to the answers.
The second one is conduct a results check, on the key areas of your life. So finances, health, career, etc. And then from there, identify your frustrations list, and then name the skill or the habits that you need to work on in order to achieve those.
Yeah. Number three, we're going to prioritize and create that action plan. So make that long list of weaknesses, pick one, commit to action, commit to those habits, and see what kind of progress you can make in the next 30 to 60 days. I might name my autobiography Mark's Long List of Weaknesses. I think that would be a
Oh.
great name for an autobiography. Um, but really, pick one, focus on it, overcome it. If you know people who are struggling with achieving their goals, please share this podcast with them so that they can get some benefit from it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.